Hi, Rich Davis here with Best FQ. Today we're looking at the top 3 threats the intelligence community tagged to decimate your portfolio. The scenario I will disclose in this alert have been role-played by the U.S. Army War College with representatives from the HLS, CIA, and FBI, to name a few. First, I will introduce you to the directive set forth by the International Monetary Fund, otherwise known as the IMF, to have all member countries reset their national debt to pre-2007 levels. You must ask yourself, why? The answer to the question is simple. For the United States to remain the world's reserve currency, this is a mandatory next step. What happens if the U.S. refuses? Well, for a currency that is in the equivalent of the intensive care unit, there isn't much choice. An additional threat that follows is class warfare. Why? Because once the U.S. is no longer the reserve currency, gas will be at $9 per gallon, bread at $8.50 a loaf, and milk at $8 a gallon. Class warfare is expected to erupt into civil war. The threat is imminent, and real-world scenarios of domestic civil unrest are being role-played at the U.S. Army War College right now. Examples of civil unrest have already been reported upon in Greece, Egypt, and Cyprus, to name a few. Acts have already been signed into law through executive order that will, through martial law, suspend the Posse Comitatus Act, an act written to disallow the use of U.S. Army, Marines, and Navy against American citizens. My message to you is not fear-mongering. I am reporting the facts you won't receive from Fox News. The IMF has instructed the U.S. to hold a bank holiday very similar to that held in Cyprus. President Obama will come onto the TV at close of business on a Friday within the next year and say, "For the good of all Americans and the good of the country, the banks will be closed beginning tonight for 1 week. During this time, if you need a small amount of money from the ATM, less than $500, will be allowed and rationed on a daily basis. Once the banks reopen, you will have been assessed a 10% direct tax against your total worth. Yes, whatever value the federal government has decided you are worth. If you do not have enough cash to cover the amount assessed from your account, then your account will remain negative until paid in full. You will not be allowed to circumvent the system by opening an account at another financial institution, as your Social Security number will be blacklisted. You will be granted time to sell assets and pay your deficiencies. If refused, further action will be taken, including negative reporting to your credit report to suspension of your passport. Remember, this is for the betterment of your America. Thank you, and have a good night." Why would Congress agree to such an action? The honest bipartisan members will agree only to avoid the imminent threat of class warfare, or worse, a civil war. How real or unreal such a scenario may be, they will never truly know. Believability has been established, with examples from Hong Kong to Greece to Egypt. It doesn't stop there. In a ploy to further finance his out-of-control government spending, President Obama rolled out in his State of the Union address and then signed into law by executive order the MyRA. MyRA is designed for the middle class, or the less than financially accredited investors, the opportunity to invest their hard-earned money into government bonds. A measure not introduced to help those Americans, but rather assist the U.S. government with their insatiable appetite for spending and redistribution of wealth. Threat number 2, the raging derivatives market, accompanied by the repeal of Section 716 of the Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, otherwise known as the Dodd-Frank Act. The act was passed and signed into law in July of 2010. The teeth in the act designed to actually reform the runaway U.S. and global derivatives market was Section 716. 716 was repealed in October of 2013 through a bipartisan vote. Yes, Your elected politicians shamelessly received, on the record, hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign donations at the very time Section 716 was repealed. According to the Bank of International Settlements, there are over 700 trillion in over-the-counter or OTC notional contracts. Statisticians estimate the total global derivatives market is 1.2 quadrillion. A quadrillion is 1,000 times a trillion. How soon Americans forget the blow and subsequent deletion of 49% of their net worth post the subprime meltdown of 07 and 08. The total estimated global derivatives market, the catalyst of the devastation of 08, was only 280 trillion. The bipartisan repeal of Section 716 has led to a perfect storm in the global financial markets, one of which will make the Thailand tsunami of 2004 look like low tide at the Carolina coast. The total global GDP is around 70 trillion. So to settle the current OTC notional contracts, an overwhelming 10 years of total global GDP would be required. Can you now see the house of cards our supposed global financial prosperity is built upon? Domestically, Americans must be more concerned. The threat the derivatives markets compose against the top 3 U.S. financial institutions is beyond overwhelming. JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, and Goldman Sachs account for 3.5 trillion in total assets, levered against 175 trillion of outstanding notional contracts, or over 2 times total global GDP, or 1/3 of all OTC notional contracts. The world cannot sustain another financial meltdown, and our bipartisan U.S. Congress eliminated any possible chance the U.S. citizens had for reform. There is hope, as we do have fresh faces in both sides of Congress, and just maybe they will hear this cry for help by reinstating Section 716. The third and final threat is that the Dodd-Frank Act also allows for what is known as the bail-in. The bail-in theory was tested during the collapse of Lehman Brothers US, where subsequently Lehman UK was facing bankruptcy. Lehman UK began the practice of what is now known as client money pooling, whereby seniors with their money held in cash or cash equivalents would be liable for the risky derivatives trades younger, more speculative investors made during the collapse. Those seniors contested Lehman's theory of client money pooling all the way to the UK Supreme Court. The Supreme Court upheld Lehman's decision to pool their clients' monies, inadvertently, through international banking laws, setting precedents for the bail-in in the United States. The bail-in is the converse of the bailout. The U.S. government enacted through TARP, TALF, and other programs whereby the U.S. taxpayer bailed out the too big to fail financial institutions. Now, as a result of the first threat, the IMF's directive for the U.S. to reset debt levels to pre-2007, the U.S. government will be precluded from any further bank bailouts. So, anyone with money on deposit with any Federal Reserve member bank should know or should have known that through Dodd-Frank, their personal and corporate monies are at risk. The bank has the authority through Congress to take a portion of your cash accounts to maintain their too big to fail solvency. Yes, even if you are not a shareholder or a bondholder, your monies are at grave risk. Risk borne by your fiduciary from offering derivatives that intelligently should have never been allowed. And now, with the repeal of Section 716, we never will. What should you do, you ask? Remove your money from these banks now. For more information, visit us at bestfq.com or click on the link below for Triple Threat. Thank you for listening to this long financial intelligence alert, and have a blessed day.